It's really good to see everybody here on the Dream Stream. It's even better that we are starting off this show with the highest rated segment.
Oh, yeah.
In the Sweats history.
Yep.
Punch 'em up, Cody.
Yep.
Steve Buchanan here for some put up your Buchs. Oh, and Garion Thorne here to fight back on some of Steve's top plays at the following positions. So, Steven, pitcher. Who's the dude you're going with tonight?
Yeah, there's a lot of good pitching options on this slate tonight, but I'm really digging using Taijuan Walker going up against the Pirates. You look at the numbers for Walker, like, I expected them to tail off, like, back in May. They just really haven't. He just continues to post some really good numbers, only a 3.07 FIP, a 9.2 K9, and now he's going against, statistically, the worst offense in the league against righties. You look at their numbers against righties, 299 WOBA, 128 isolated power, and 86 WRC plus. The first two that I mentioned, worst in the league. The WRC plus, third worst in the league. Bad, bad, and bad. Now, this team doesn't strike out a lot, so there is that there. And I know Garion's probably going to bring that up because I know Garion. Him and I are like the same person, except one's American, one's Canadian. But I like using Walker tonight. I think she has no problem mowing through this lineup, who also is without Colin Moran, who's been out on the IL, so one of their better bats. I think this is a great spot for Walker.
Is this a great spot for Walker in your eyes, my Canadian companion?
I do like this spot for Taijuan Walker. Yeah. I'll admit that. I also have to say I was sitting in this Zoom room like, where are you guys? And now I feel like I'm being ganged up on. You're both in studio. It's blowing my mind a little bit. Here's the thing with Walker. It's how much upside is really there. And maybe he doesn't need 35-point upside at his price point at $8,400. But I just think you can find guys with a little bit more ceiling at a lower price. And I think Alek Manoah is probably the guy that I'm circling right now at $6,800. Manoah, for whatever reason, is sub 7K tonight, despite the fact that he has basically been hovering around $8,000 for his entirety of the time he's spent in the majors. And his last two starts, he's thrown 13 scoreless innings, just 7 hits allowed, and 16 strikeouts in those 13 innings. He had an 18.3% swinging strike rate in his last start, 37 DraftKings points in that start. So I think you've basically got two very similar pitchers here and two very similar fantasy profiles, but one is $1,500 cheaper in a better matchup because, as Steve did foreshadow, let's talk about strikeout rate. The last 30 days, the Pirates have the third lowest strikeout rate in all of baseball. The Orioles have the fourth highest strikeout rate in all of baseball. So while I do like both these guys, I think dollar for dollar, Manoah is the better play.
Stevie Biceps, I need an infielder from you here, please.
Yeah, let's talk about Jonathan Schoop. Once upon a time, he was $2,800 on DraftKings. He's now $5,400 tonight. Why is that? Because he remembered how to hit lefties. That was always the thing about Jonathan Schoop, is that he was a left-handed pitcher slayer, and that's what he's finally turned back into here in the 2021 season. You look at those numbers across the board against lefties now, 376 WOBA against him, a 264 isolated power, and a 138 WRC plus. And he gets probably the best lefty that you'd want to face if you're a right-handed bat, and J Happ. J Happ has been so bad. Somebody who doesn't strike out anyone, relies on contact for outs. Well, that strategy doesn't work out if you're not getting outs either. Over his last 6 starts, Happ has allowed at least 4 runs in 4 of those starts. He's been getting absolutely hammered on the mound. And I know he's going against the Tigers. The Tigers are not really an offense that you fear, but Schoop has been somebody who's been mashing lefties for over a month and a half now. He gets a fantastic matchup here against Happ, who is inducing a lot more fly balls and ground balls, which has been kind of his MO. But really, at this point, if Happ is taking the mound, you're targeting against him with hitters no matter what the team is. I'd even take the Pirates at this point going up against Happ. But Schoop, who's been as hot of a hitter as he is, has a really good matchup against Happ tonight, so that's where I'm going for the infield.
Gare Bear, how can you fight back here? Put up your Buchs. Come on.
Oh, I will. I will fight back. I'll admit the Tigers are probably my favorite stack on this slate, but the big reason for that is affordability. You can get essentially their leadoff hitter, their second hitter, their cleanup hitter for like $3,000. Everyone is affordable except for Schoop. He's $5,400,
Good.
as Steve alluded to. And while Hap has been a dumpster fire lately, he's giving up 3.4 opponent home runs per 9 going back to the start of June. He's terrible. Schoop isn't as hot as he was 2 weeks ago. I mean, at the beginning of June, this guy was maybe the hottest hitter in all of baseball, but going back to June 24th, he's got an isolated power below 100 and a 52 WRC plus. It seems like Cinderella lost the slipper. He's pumpkining a little bit right now. He's turning back into just like a league average hitter, which is what Jonathan Schoop actually is. So if he was $4,000 tonight, cool, put him in a lineup. But at $5,400, now we're talking like, okay, do I put Jonathan Schoop in a lineup or Bo Bichette? I think I'll just go with Bo Bichette against Keegan Aiken or Marcus Semien or an all-star caliber player, because that's what Schoop's being priced at. So I love this Tiger stack, but I love this Tiger stack without Jonathan Schoop.
You know, I think we should rename this segment. It's Put Up Your Buchs, why Garion just continues to be a Blue Jays homer. What do you think, Emerson?
Well, Garion gives statistics?
Yeah, yep.
It's
you know,
true.
you can go online and look up stats, right, Steve?
Oh, yeah, that's why I have this segment. I look up a lot of stats, and that's why I give these plays.
I
Yep.
haven't heard a lot of numbers, just heard a lot of anger so far, but okay, continue.
That's what
Whoa.
that's really what this segment's about.
Garion channeling his inner Nick Fryer right now.
Where's that loser, by the way?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You scared him off, man.
Yeah.
He's sick of fighting you.
Yeah, he's probably at Savers getting another flannel.
Let's see if Garion wants to push back on your outfield selection, dude.
Yeah, let's talk about Jesse Winker, who's going up against Adrian Hauser. The biggest problem with Adrian Hauser is that he just can't get left-handed batters out. That's always been the bane of his existence since he's been in the major leagues. So far this season, 4.43 FIP, a 346 WAR, 4 of the 11 home runs that he's allowed. I know that Winky's kind of cooled off a little bit. He's not the guy that we saw earlier in the month when he was hitting a home run every other at bat, it feels like. But Winker actually has better numbers on the road than he does at home. And remember, he hits in Cincinnati, which is one of the best hitting ballparks aside from Coors Field. But his numbers on the road against righties have really been where a lot of the power has come from. 281 isolated power in that one, 448 WOBA. So his numbers on the road really is what kind of backs me up in this spot here. And then just the struggles, like I mentioned, with Hauser against lefty. So even though Winker has kind of cooled off a bit, I really like this matchup against him and Hauser tonight.
Gary Bear, how we feeling about this one?
It's a good spot. You won't find me saying a good word about Adrian Hauser. I do not trust that dude at all in any capacity. He's bad. As Steve mentioned, he is consistently throughout the past 3 seasons been bad against left-handed batters. So the fact that Winker is 1 for his last 19, it's not great, but that's not like a terrible slump. Everyone's going to have ups and downs, and this guy has consistently been one of the best hitters by surface statistics or advanced statistics in baseball this season. I will say Bryce Harper might be a better play. He's a little bit cheaper in the outfield. He's just $5,100. He is red hot right now. And his numbers against right-handed pitching this season, as you would expect, are marvelous. He's got a 159 WRC plus within that split. And Alzolay, who's starting this game for the Cubs, much like Hauser, his big flaw is he cannot get out left-handed bats. A 390 WOBA to opposing left-handed hitters so far this season. He might be worse than Hauser in that regard, which is saying something. So I would lean Harper, but Winker's a fine play too.
Okay, now for value. This is big because we're going from Stevie Biceps here to Benny Biceps. Is that right?
I mean, that's totally right, and that's exactly why it's the value play here. But this is more of a pure salary play than anything. Andrew Benintendi, 3,100 tonight, most likely batting second in the Royals lineup, going up against Zach Plesac. I mean, you look at Benintendi, he's averaging 8.2 DraftKings fantasy points against righties so far this season. After that horrific month of April, where it really looked like the Red Sox made the right move by getting rid of him. Besides some injuries, Benintendi has been producing when he's been healthy in the lineup here. So getting someone batting second, 3,100 in a good hand matchup here against Plesac, I think that's the way to go in this one. You're going to need to save some salary somewhere when you're building a lineup for the slate with the amount of pitching options and the more expensive guys like Jonathan Schoop that you want to pay up for. So I like the spot for Benintendi, 3,100, easy to get into your lineup.
You gonna fight back on this one?
Look, it's a fine value play. I just think there are better value plays. And
Fine.
one of the reasons you can't use Jonathan Schoop is you're only allowed to roster one first baseman on your team at a time. And there's a better first baseman option on the Tigers. His name is Miguel Cabrera. He's just $3,000. Let me do a quick PSA. Miguel Cabrera is still alive. I know. It's crazy. Since the beginning of June, Cabrera is actually hitting .317, and he's got 38 plate appearances specifically against left-handed pitchers in that span of time. He's got a .404 WOBA and a 157 WRC plus within the split. So Miggy's actually tearing the cover off the ball right now. No one really cares or is noticing, but even across the last 30 days, the Tigers have the 9th best WOBA in all of baseball. So this is a pretty good offensive team going up against a terrible pitcher. So again, stack the Tigers, just don't stack Jonathan Schoop. Put Miguel Cabrera at first base.